Well, hello and welcome to Wild Magic Harmony. This is Deborah Faye D'Onofrio, and I'm here with my beloved sweet honeybee Bee Priestess sister, Melissa Belliard. And we're coming to you today for the last episode of our first season of Wild Magic Harmony, and we're calling this one Walking the Talk. So welcome to you all, and thank you so much for being here with us. And as is our way, we like to begin by creating sacred space for all of us to be in circle together. So I'd invite you to take a moment now to settle in wherever you are and to sit back and relax. Take a couple of deep centering breaths in and out at your own pace. Just coming into the presence of your own body. And you might just take a note of your surroundings, adding another layer of awareness. You might be hearing some noises from outside, or even maybe within the space that you're in. You can just note them and let them be along their way. And as the breath draws you inward, if you like, maybe take a moment to scan your body, see how it's showing up for you today. You might notice where it is that your seat makes contact with the chair or couch or cushion. Using this as a time to relax and let go of any tension that you might be feeling or anything that's been stored up in your body that you want to release and let go of. Maybe if it feels good to shrug your shoulders or to tilt your head in one direction or another, just to kind of reacquaint yourself with your physical being. And if it feels appropriate, maybe offering a note of thanks to this body that allows you to move through this world with eyes that can mirror beautiful images of life, things that you interact with in the course of your day, legs that can help you ambulate and move from place to place, and hands that can help you create and make and allow you to express yourself. You can give thanks for all of the things that happen within our body that just automatically occur, like a steady heartbeat, our breath that nourishes and oxygenates us, for the blood that courses through our veins, for all of the many millions of interactions in our brain that keep all of our body parts functioning in harmony. And so as we draw inward to this dark time of the year, to the winter solstice that's coming up next week, the shortest day and longest night, and to Yule, and to Christmas, and even with the full moon that's coming up on the 18th. All wonderful reasons to draw inward, to contemplate, to reflect, to be. It's an invitation to remove ourselves from the busyness of the world and to really sit in and with the darkness of this time of year, this womb time, and see what mysteries might want to surface or reveal themselves, that only when we allow ourselves that quiet, still space can we come into connection with, communication with. And so in this winter season here in the Northern Hemisphere, we like to share the consciousness of the power of this practice. And so in order to call in circle, let's pay our tributes to the directions and to the four quarters and corners and to the elements. And we'll begin in the east with the element of air. And maybe we appreciate this element a little more in the cold weather when we're outside, maybe smelling wood smoke, or when we're feeling a freezing breeze as we look up in the night sky to see somehow how much brighter the stars seem in the winter and closer to us. This is the time of dreaming, so we could think of it as an interaction with the element of air and thought, of mystery. And so we hail and welcome you into our circle. And as we move around to the element of south and the element of fire in the direction of south, we are so grateful for the warmth of that fiery energy that is so essential this time of year. And may we also feel that maybe it's a little softer fire that burns in the winter, but still the embers that carry us forward into the darkest of times to reveal to us truths and perhaps new opportunities or visions for our lives. We appreciate the candles in the windows and in our hearths, and all of the things that we derive warmth from, whether it's a hot meal or stew or soup or some kind of warm drink to help balance that cold. And so hail and welcome to you, fire. And as we walk around the circle, we come to the element of water and the direction of west. We know that water is a changeable element, and often it appears frozen as ice in the winter, that we can engage with it differently and use it also as a subject of contemplation and meditation about maybe how things change with the seasons. Nothing is solid forever or one way forever. And embracing maybe some of those messages this dark season. And how are we in relationship to that? It may be that we take to the waters of our tub to do cleansing or purifying or healing herbal baths or aromatherapy baths to help hydrate us, keep our skin moist and healthy during this dry, cold time. And maybe there are some other ways that come to you, ways that water works with you in your life that you could quietly acknowledge now. And so we hail water, element of water, and welcome you to the circle. And as we continue coming full circle to the final of the 4 elements that we invite in today, and it's the element of earth and of north, which is the time of winter, the season of winter, and that stillness, and some would say of death, time where things die back, a fallow time of bringing energy inward rather than trying to extend it outward. And maybe acknowledging the challenge that that can be in this Western world where the seduction is always to be outward, moving, achieving, doing. So the invitation with this direction at this time of year can be about creating an intimate inward space for yourself. Maybe bucking some of those habitual routines that you have, especially at this time where so many find themselves wrapped up in holiday pressures and stresses. In what way can you reconnect to the earth or to earth yourself, to ground yourself in something that's beyond the superficial, beyond the surface? Is there an authentic practice that the earth could bring up for you or awaken you to? This precious time of the year. Something that you can drink in, that elixir of dark winter magic. And so we welcome and hail the element of earth. We welcome our own deep inner wisdom and higher wisdom. We ask that all of those in spirit that guide, guard, and bless us would step in to the circle. The angelic realms, master teachers, spirit guides, illuminated light energies, the devas, the fairy realms, and the ancestors, the grandmothers, all who can contribute and provide energy and insight are welcome. And to all of those that guide this community, and to Wild Magic Harmony herself, may she be present with us. And so, as always, we give thanks for this opportunity to be and serve, to learn and grow, and to be blessed together. And so mote it be.
Blessed be. Mm. Lovely, lovely.
Thank you.
Of course, while we're recording this, it's 50 degrees outside in mid-December, but
Except in my house, which is always colder than it is outside. So I just took off my woolly bear bathrobe in order to look halfway normal. And then on top of the woolly bear bathrobe, I was lucky enough to have the kitten lay on my lap. So they're like little heartwarmers, but they got the purr and then they're warm and you can feel that live heat come through and it's like, oh, this is great.
Yummy.
That works. Mm-hmm.
Nice.
It was. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, but you're right. Unseasonably weather the last few days. I think they said something about we've had 9 60-degree days in 6 or 9 in December so far. And today is December 17th that we're taping this. And then aren't we supposed to have snow tomorrow, possibly?
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am. So winters are coming.
It's going to arrive officially. We're going to see some white stuff maybe. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And I just, yeah, go ahead.
you go. Yeah.
Well, I was just gonna say, I'm glad you spoke to the societal pressures to be busy and be active and not maybe honoring the cycle of the season of, the sun's going down at 4:30, right? And we have a few more days before the sun starts coming back, but it's just really hard to balance that. So I'm sure that our listeners are probably feeling that pressure as well. So yeah.
Yeah.
And the artificial light like makes it so hard not to, I know we talked about that a few episodes ago about maybe trying to check in more with the natural light and light a candle instead of turning on the house lights and that kind of thing. So
Yes. It is such a I this time of year, it was only a few years ago that I learned about it, but I think I'm going to pronounce it correctly when I say I think it's hygge, the Nordic idea of, the whole cozy in a word, but the whole idea of really getting into, because it's, I mean, my gosh, I don't think I could survive up there, but the warm socks and the hot cocoa and the fires and, being in, and again with COVID, how this would work or not, but, the idea is like you're in close proximity with your people and, you're doing cozy things, you're feeling cozy, there's not that kind of crazy pressure to perform and just business as usual. Probably easier up there because there's just so much, I mean, I know they make their way through it. Like you have snowmobiles and you're equipped to get through the season, but they just kind of embrace the darkness in a way that most of us, it seems like a foreign thing. Like when I go out into the world, I've been nesting this winter, which is very much the hibernation. I really am enjoying hibernating as much as I can. But, when you have to go out or when I have to go out, it feels sometimes like an affront. Just it's so jarring if you do give yourself some of this true experience with reflection and just slowing down and being more quiet and less outward, because most everybody hasn't a clue about any of this and the benefit of it or the power of it or the sense of it, really. It's just sensible. When did you
yeah, and I think,
first come
go ahead.
to recognize, when was your departure from, the cultural same old to understanding that this could be a time of rejuvenation, of, dreaming, of going within, of slowing down? Like, how did you come to know about it?
I mean, I'm sure I was introduced to it when I did the feminine teachings with Deborah Roth. God, whatever that was, like, it's probably been almost 20 years now. But every winter has been different, and I haven't always, made the space to go deeper. I think for me, I find that through my life, I have these periods of these big cycles of learning and growth, and then quiet time and integration, and then I swing back up and learning and growth, and I feel very spongy and very like active and like very young energy. And then I go inward and let everything integrate and become much more feminine and yin and let it just kind of settle down through my system. So I think that probably each winter kind of depends on where I'm at with that. But as an introvert, I mean, that's one good thing about COVID I did like, was that I didn't have to go out if I didn't want to. And I'm definitely more about, I like being home. I'm also a Cancer in my astrology. And so I am certainly very domestic and like being home and cozy and all that. So, but I do think the Norwegians or whoever that, and I always pronounce it higgy, like I think of like getting higgy with it. It's probably not the right way to pronounce it, but I think they're honoring they're following what Mother Nature is, naturally encouraging us to do, right?
Oh, for sure. I I think like about, we talked about light, but just the power of convenience to alienate us from what is natural. I mean, take any topic and that could be true, whether it is, the seasons and like kind of letting our, how can I say this? It's sort of like letting our bodies have the experience of being of the earth, where there's just following along with what it is natural for it to want to do. I think we've so trained ourselves out of it that it's foreign to come back to it. So the thing that is most natural to us is not anymore. And that could be it. That's like with anything at all. I'm thinking like food, for example, we really, eat things that aren't food. It's like that, that, and I do it. I mean, I totally do it, not all the time, but I mean, I was raised on boxed food, and still have soft spots for some of it. I mean, you have those childhood memories that go with some of those things. I mean, it's not that I didn't eat real food too, but for convenience, right? Like working mother convenience. And so that whole idea of convenience over, something that's real, right? Whether it is the way we rush around, and because we have the ability to do things faster, we think we have to, or just because you can doesn't mean that you should. Just because there is $1,200 iPhone doesn't mean you should have it, to do more and to store more and for, to go out and shoot movies like, a Hollywood studio or whatever. I mean, I'm not downing that per se, but it's just the idea of, we shouldn't take advantage of every opportunity because it's not for our highest good, I think sometimes, and that process of discernment, discerning, like, just because it's the thing, is it my thing?
Yeah, when you talk about the convenience of things, that's something that when I was reading the pelvic book by the Wild Feminine, or I can't think of any of the Tammy Lynn Kent book I've referred to, she talks about how the advent of like women's feminine products has really given us no reason not to be out in public when we really should probably be home in our red tent, right? Taking our rest for the 4 or 5 days a month that we could be, and how that's really just made it not honoring our cycles, and that's its own like seasonal cycle each month, right?
Yeah,
so yeah,
so true.
for sure. So I do try to keep that in mind as I go through my own, I'm still cycling, going through my own monthly cycle, and obviously, watching the moon through her cycle as well. So yeah. Yeah, so we wanted to talk about our own walking the talk, how we have walked these talks ourselves, and the benefits and discoveries perhaps that we've had, the gifts really from it. And so the biggest one, because it's so recent, was last year. I really chose that I was going to use COVID and really dig in deep into, I really wanted to look at my eating. I also wanted to look at how much I was drinking during COVID, because I did drink, basically almost every day. And I just knew it wasn't in my highest interest or good to be doing that. And I knew there were a lot of emotional reasons for that. And so last January, I really chose to step in and go back to doing Whole30, which is basically meat, vegetables, and healthy fats. So no dairy, no sugar, no processed anything, no alcohol, obviously. And recommitted to my, my exercise practice. And I decided I wanted to really walk outside, because I really wasn't ready to go back in the gym yet. And that was beautiful, because I got to connect with the seasons. And as my running friend says, there's no bad weather, only bad gear. And so just really bundling up and dressing in layers and all that to get myself outside. And I just really appreciated connecting with nature and seeing even the daily changes. And just, kind of surprised at all the animals that were still out and about in this kind of weather, and this, the the northern New England we have here. And so I really stepped into that fully. And also I had done Whole30 before, but I had never done maybe the emotional practice around it of really, okay, now that we're not like using food to, you know, soothe our feelings, what's going on? Why have we been turning to food for these reasons? And so that was probably the most challenging part of being quiet and going in, because I, you know, things came up that just didn't feel great to feel, but I hadn't been feeling them before. And that's kind of part of why I ended up where I was. And so I really chose to sit with those feelings. I'll have to find the poem. It's something by Rumi, I think, where he talks about inviting them as guests to the table.
Yeah,
And
it's
really,
called The Guest House. Yeah.
yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
yes,
It's one of my
yeah. So
favorites.
just really being like, yeah, come on in grief, come on in sadness. Oh, look, there's anger. Hey-oh. You know, I was having these crazy dreams about my past, and all these things I hadn't thought about in like 20 years were coming up for me. I was getting very angry in my dreams, which was not usual for me. So I'm very grateful to Spirit for supporting me and honoring that I was doing the work. And so she helped me to, I guess, access the things that I needed to access so that I could work through those. Working through a very strong family pattern and trying to break that as well. That was really huge for me as well. So, and at first I wasn't looking at, you know, the 30 days is, or it ends up being 45 days if you do the Whole30 plan. And after that, I was like, oh, I'll just go back to drinking again, but it'll be better, right? It won't be, I'll moderate, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And the more that I stepped into it, the more I realized I needed to take a deeper look at it beyond the 45 days. And so was grateful to be part of a Facebook group. So I guess Facebook can be for good as well, using the power for good. There was a terrific group on Facebook that really supported me into looking at different sober curious resources. So I really started reading that and open to the idea. And I ended up doing a 100-day kind of workbook that I could answer questions and really dig deeper into my relationship with alcohol. And that was amazing. I learned so much about myself. I made it through the 100 days. I was very proud of myself because there were definitely times, and certainly political reasons, you know, we had the riots going on, we had the election questions, and, you know, was the 21st inauguration even going to happen? Excuse me. So there were many reasons I could have chosen to be like, hey, I'm just going to have a glass of wine and soften the edges here. But I chose to honor myself and sit with, again, those kind of deeper, uncomfortable feelings. So, but I also like tried to support myself. So I started listening to podcasts because I felt like I wanted to replace my wake up and look at social media, you know, fall down that black hole every morning. So I was like, no, I'm going to wake up and I'm going to put on a podcast. So I downloaded a bunch ahead of time so I could just like go in there and just click something. Like I said, I was taking my walks. I also, there's a practice in Ayurveda about using oil to rub, you know, oil yourself up and let it soak in for about 15 minutes in a warm room before you shower. And so I would do that every once in a while. Other self-care like facial masks and, you know, really sitting in my altar every day and just connecting with Mother Earth and Spirit. Then in February, I think I did like a month of yoga. I did yoga every day. And so I was opening myself up to ways that I could be more open to Spirit, be more open to what was going on with me, honoring that quiet place and giving, it really ended up being my toddler, like giving that inner toddler a safe space to be herself, to whine and cry and, you know, have her temper tantrums about whatever she was upset about. Cause I just feel like I wasn't listening to her voice. And I think there's a lot of valid things that she still has to tell me. So I think for this winter cycle, I'm also really getting into some oils. Like that's something I'm really excited to like dive deeper into because I love aromatherapy and I'm like, why, you know, there's so much I could be doing with this. So I think that's where I'm stepping into for this cycle. And I'm certainly open. I haven't really taken the time yet to sit down. I'm looking forward to the solstice practice and doing a yoga nidra that night at one of the studios downtown. And so I'm just looking forward to connecting with spirit and asking her what's my next step. So yeah.
I remember that, going through that with you. I felt like I was walking beside you as you went through that. And it was extraordinary. I mean, what you pulled from that and your, your dedication to fulfilling the intention completely, and how difficult that was at times, but also incredibly rewarding for you to move beyond the borders of your known self in those ways. And, this excavation process that you underwent. I mean, I remember it vividly.
Right. And I should mention too that I had pulled the card, the tower for my card for the year.
Yeah.
And I was just like, what the F? Are you kidding me right now? That's my card. And I had also the word completion came to me as my word of the year. And so Deb and I actually did quite a few Reiki exchanges during that time. And that was certainly so supportive and helpful to get me opening up to spirit and really downloading the messages she had for me. I felt like a huge sponge, and certainly our connections to each other during that time was such an integral part of it. So thank you. And thank you for being a witness, right? Like we talk about witnessing each other, just to have someone else seeing me and mirroring me and, give me validation was so healing.
Yeah. Well, we're two peas in a pod, when it comes to that, for sure. But I remember just how impressed I was with your fortitude. And I guess I'm going to come, I'm thinking for people that may be listening to this and saying, I could never do all that, or my God, that sounds like so much or whatever. But then there's this part about when you're ready, nothing is too much. It's like, no, I'm up for this. This is what I want. And if this is what it takes, this is what I'm doing, so like you said, getting in touch kind of with those layers of resistance and, what is this really about? And I think as more and more people, awaken on the planet, it's like this kind of work becomes more appealing because, there is this such a deep wrongness in a way of how you feel like when you're not living from inside out, and I think it can catch up with you. And I think that COVID maybe is something of an accelerator, pressurizing a lot of us into deeper growth. And of course, that was all, you had to maneuver through all of that as well. Didn't you? I mean, that was another, maybe fits into it, it just adds another moving part, I guess you could say, and
I do feel like it was an accelerator, and I've heard that from other people too. When because we hired a bunch of new organizers, and we heard it with them that they just were like, this gave me the time to be like, is this really what I want to be doing for the rest of my life? For sure. So, and I think part of it too was like, if you had told me where I'd be at the end of the year, at the beginning of the year, I would have been like, I'm not doing that. Hell's no, I'm not doing. No, I'm going to do my 45 days and I'm going to go back to having my wine. Like, you're not taking that away from me. And so I feel like that's where, like, we've heard about faith and having to trust that you don't need to know the entire path sometimes. You just need to know the next step. And I feel like spirit let me see the next step when I was ready to be like, oh, okay. Oh, I hear you. Oh, okay. I'm going to do it. You're right. Versus, trying to leap across the abyss in one big jump. So yeah.
I think that's very benign because I mean, I don't think we'd be doing much as humans if we saw the whole picture ahead of time. If we got front loaded too much, you'd be like, no.
Same sister. Hello, the year you've had. So yeah, maybe you want to talk about your own process.
Yeah. Well, as you all know, I've had a life-changing event this summer, which wasn't in the winter in a time of reflection, but it doesn't always coincide precisely with the season, what kind of work you're doing, what kind of inner work, because you could say that was thrusts me into my inner winter in July, and August and up through here. But yeah, when something, so that one wasn't a conscious choice, where like in contrast, yours was. But this period of uh, heroine's journey and choices along the way of how you're going to maneuver through a major, what could have been, very threatening scenario if it had gone on much longer. I think even within days, I probably would have been blind, because it deteriorated like so quickly. And then, all of the fallout with it months after. Christmas will be the 5th month actually of the surgery date. So a day to celebrate, how good I'm feeling and how far I've come. And but all of those things that you once were and are no longer, it's like you really become a different person. And so you have to, like for me, like I did not have that dialogue about when I get back to, that wasn't really how it was, because I was so aware that it was like the only way is forward. It's not like going back to someone I used to be, because I'll never be that person again. I don't look the same, I don't feel the same. It's funny because when people hear I've had a brain tumor and surgery and they see me, they're like, well, you look great, and then in parentheses, what's not said is, for someone that has a brain tumor, I get that all the time. Well, you look great. It makes me laugh because I'm like, yeah, I know what that means, but I guess because I don't have like a scarred, shaven head or something, or I'm not looking deformed in any physical way. I look sort of like who they think I used to look like, but I mean, there isn't anything that doesn't get touched with an experience, body, mind, spirit, everything gets inventoried, and what I have realized when I went through my acute healing phase, like the first few weeks, I was relying on my meditation, my art and creativity and stitching and felting and, some journal writing, but meditating. And, I had these deep moments of like bliss, really, of like deep enchantment. And it's like this, and it's a portal. Creativity is a portal into truth and into, deep things arise when you're in the process of making things. It's more than just kind of like a la meditative thing. It's like deep things were coming up as a result of having my schedule completely rearranged for me because of this. And, when it was time to sleep, it was time to sleep. It was not time to push through doing and thinking I could do other things. It was very simple, black and white. It's yes, it's no, it's none of those things. So in a way, for someone who's, I realized as a result of all of this, how much I had abdicated my own self-care because of the needs of others. I could put it that way. And how I had, and it was an irony, because in so many ways I didn't think I was this woman, but then when I went through this experience, I saw the leaky places where, oh yes, I am doing that. And like I think I was telling you, I wouldn't think twice about, like, if there was, something I wanted to eat, but I knew someone else in the house would want to eat it, I would just wouldn't even do it. I would just leave it for them, And it sounds silly, but it's, I think probably anybody that lives with other people, you might have sort of that scenario of like family members. It's like, nope, there's sort of this sacrificial thing I had going on that I had to look at. It's like, oh, I don't want to do that anymore. Like, I don't want to be that martyr. I don't want to be that person that says no to more than she wants. She's saying, I like no to myself. I'm saying no to myself more than I want to, more than is healthy for me. And so, I had to get really clear on what my yeses were, what my nos were, what I really wanted to spend time doing, because I realized that, you know, energy is a resource for me. It's not unlimited. I am not going to be pushing through, and, you know, the cape is gone, you know, that isn't part of my future. And I also realized so many things about, you know, when we talk about self-care and we're talking about this deep reflection and, you know, this time of year, really coming into, sorry, I just need to plug in my computer while I'm chatting here. I didn't realize it came undone.
Can I say something
Yeah.
that it made me think, because I do the same thing, right? Like my kids, I would always sacrifice what the kids would want to eat before I would have it, right? So last year I turned 50, right? And so there's someone in my life who they do what they want to do. You know, they put themselves first. They're not, I wouldn't say they're like a narcissist or whatever, but they definitely like take care of their own needs very easily and very, you know, that's their thing. So I'm like, I started asking myself, what would so and so do in this moment?
Oh, interesting.
And that was so powerful for me, because I'm like, they would eat the food. They wouldn't care that someone else in the house might like it. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? Like, you know, but really, like, I had to really take myself out of myself, because I was always like you, abdicating my own needs for other people. I'm like, I'm tired of doing this. I'm getting resentful, clearly. And so I'd be like, what would so and so do? I'm like, that's what, and I may not always choose to do that, but a lot of the times I'm like, I'm going to do that and like try it and see how I feel. And maybe I would feel guilty after, but it's like,
Yes.
where
Yeah.
was I taught to do that and hold back on myself like
Right.
that? And I know part of it is our society. I agree that, you know, we're supposed to be super women and do everything, and everyone comes first and we take care of everyone else. So,
Well, I was saying just the
yes.
other night, one of the things that I miss so much, because, you know, I'm the cook in the house, right? So if food is going to happen, it's me. And I mean, unless it's takeout, which like tonight, yay, it is. I don't have to think about that. But I got a reprieve when I was sick, because these beautiful women were coming and giving us meals, hand cooked, gourmet, like, oh, like you included, you know, these ultimate, like, oh my God, that was one of the things I was so incredibly grateful for, was the energy that went into that. It was so amazingly nourishing, and just, it was just such a treasure to me to have like a month of meals that I did not have to cook, think about, clean up, nothing, you know. And now, so what, now almost 5 months in, it's been like, you know, 4 months since then. I was saying to Nico the other night, I so missed that. Because he was saying how he appreciated like a hot meal when he got home from work, and he was thanking me, which was just so sweet. And I was saying, yeah, there's nothing like that feeling of someone making a meal for you. I think, you know, for many of us women, we just don't have that experience as often as, you know, other family members do. So, I mean, I do know some guys that are the cooks at the house, and I do know some women who don't cook at all. You know, it just doesn't happen. But I mean, by and large, it's that kind of experience where, you know, it's such a big thing. So, you know, as I continued on this healing journey, it just became so clear to me that I was not going to be able to do some of the things that I did before I got sick. And, you know, when we started this podcast, it was in June, which was just literally, I think, maybe a month before this happened, having no clue that this was all gonna talk about the tower. I think you shared the tower with me on that one. It's like, I think
For both of us.
we co-towered on that one.
We co-towered the F out of it, man.
We co-towered. We need another car to co-tower. Yeah. But, you know, as magical as this has been to create together, I mean, it was magic from the beginning. We knew it was the right thing to do. I mean, there was no question every step of the way, and you know, had some wonderful guests, and we're able to fulfill this sense of, you know, offering to a community the topic and the space to explore self-care and soul tending, and as I was saying to you, some of the irony is that I feel like this isn't something I can continue, or it's something that I'm not choosing to continue because I really need to focus in sort of a narrowed way about what I feel I can give successfully, and well, and respecting, personal resources, which I have learned is something that I haven't done, really. And so we felt today was really the perfect way to create this topic and segue into talking about our future, was to kind of just share a little bit about our, walking our talk. So for me, walking my talk and going through this radical experience means being honest with myself. And even when it's disappointing or something that I might not want, still respecting the truth of it. And kind of like you were saying with the guest house, there may be certain guests we'd rather not invite in. But that's, part of, I think the honor and respect that you have for yourself when you do your self-care work and when you're doing your soul tending. And, as we are in this dark season and things for people like you and I, we make space for the unconscious to be conscious, and for things that maybe we've missed to get into our line of vision, or to, become clear to us. I mean, in this healing journey, there've certainly been, I think there was just so much trauma in the beginning as well, even as I did with it. It was this, it's a huge trauma on all levels. And I think that I'll be unfurling from it for some time, yet. It's only been a few months, and, I'm still very much in the midst of doing the final stages of the healing work around, you know, just the flat out physical health piece, never mind the other stuff that can be a byproduct of that, or, has its own kind of spin-offs because of it. So, it's an ongoing journey, and one that I want to be respectful of and positive towards, and realistic, but also working from that deep inner space of, what surfaces has to be integrated. If I'm going to walk the talk, then I have to do that, right? So I'm just going to turn on the light here. All of a sudden I see myself fading. I'll be back in just a second.
No worries at all. Yeah, stepping into this, and really, if we're asking spirit to guide us, we need to be receiving the guidance and acting on it, right?
Yeah, I mean,
why are we going to ask for it and then not do something about it, right? Not respond.
I mean, I think there is, if you get it, you have that choice, right? Of sort of bapping it away for, catch me next time, or, or
la,
yeah.
la, 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 la. I'm not listening.
Yes. Sure, I've done that too, but that catches up with us, right? That catches up with us, and I think that it's never a point A to point B. There's always little surprises along the way, and like this, I would have never in a million years thought that this would be the conversation we'd be having right now, based on where we were in June. I mean, we were headed in a clear direction. We knew what we wanted to do, and, creating this from scratch. And I remember, painting the art for it and learning how to use Zoom for it, and figuring out how to get the actual podcast pages up. And now what about YouTube and all these things that we did, and, creating our Facebook page, and just all the things that came with it. I mean, amazing growth, amazing partnership, we work so well together. I mean, all of these things that would have never existed if we didn't make that choice. But here we are, walking the talk means also being willing to change, right? And adapt, and, be with the whole picture of a life, And so that's what we choose to do, right? You and I, that's what we do. And so with all of that being said, this will be my final podcast with Melissa as we wrap up this first season, which we're both sad about, but it also feels like if it is a note where I, say goodbye for now, I think this is a great topic because this is what we're all about. It's a strange irony in a way, but it's also, very truthful experience that we're having as well. So it will take a new shape and form of Melissa's design, whatever she, decides that will be as she reflects and goes inward. And I'm putting my energy into what really came out of and is coming out of my healing experience is regret is taught me a lot of things, like not wanting to regret. And if that is true, that I don't want to regret, which basically means leave things undone that are really important to me. When I had an experience where I read something I had written in 2018, and it's like one of my deepest passions that I still hadn't gotten around to. And it just like cracked me open, it was just like, wow. And that was long before any of this stuff happened, and it just is very sobering. It was like, you know, get that shit done, get involved at that level in your life, because it's what you're here for, is that level of, you know, experience. And clearly no guarantees here. I mean, it could have been a very different experience. If we had waited even a day longer, it could have been a very different experience. I mean, when my vision was failing me, I, had to go through kind of those blips of, okay, so blindness. Okay, can I do blindness, and me being such a visual person and such a, I mean, beauty, like physical beauty of, nature and just of art and everything, it's just so important to me. So it was like trying that hat on. And, I feel tremendously blessed that that was not impacted with this. But, so you go through, in other words, all of these side trails, but they set you straight about, when I wake up, I literally want engagement with these things. It's, it really puts um, it creates an entirely different way to make choices, and how, the level of your participation in things, whether it's just, it does create a desire to want to savor and to focus deeply and to accomplish specifically. For me, that's what I'm realizing, is like there are specific things that I want to attend to. And a lot of them came through like being reminded how important like deep creative work is for me, and sacred making is to me, and like writing the story. And I also have never been good at budgeting time for these things, like the right amount of time. So I'd always feel so pressured, and like I'd always have myself under unrealistic expectations and deadlines. A good deadline is a good thing, I mean, it's a great motivating thing. But if it's an unrealistic thing, it's very self-sabotaging. And I had to
Well,
look
and
at
it
all of that.
shuts down the creative process too, right? Like how can you create in that
Under
compressed
duress.
state? Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I
Yeah.
know like you're saying a deadline sometimes is good because then it forces you to really focus, right? But you also still have to stay in that nice like second chakra, swimming in the juiciness of it as well. So yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of things surfaced around this that were life changing in, you know, in ways that uh, are very useful and positive and life giving, which is fantastic. But anyway, it creates a lot of it's very cyclical, isn't it? You know, beginnings and endings and beginnings and endings. And, you know, so we're experiencing kind of both of those today in this podcast. So
Yes, and of course, I'm so sad, you know, to not think of you with me every month, but I know that we're, like you said, we're going to still be in each other's orbits, and maybe I'll have you back as a guest on my podcast. I don't know. We'll have to see what spirit brings. But
yeah.
like you said, I'm going to drop in and really just be open and meditate on what makes sense for the next thing. Because I do feel like we have a lovely community, and I always feel like it's not just you and me talking. It's really, I feel like we are in circle with people. So I love that idea. And I feel like there are still things I want to explore with, you know, other people and topics and that kind of thing. So
absolutely. Yeah. Well, I just want to say thank you to you and to everyone that sits with us, because it's been a great creation that we've all been a part of.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I do feel like, well, Magic Harmony is always with us in Divine Feminine, and so grateful for her love and support. And how could I not cheer so loud for you for whatever your next steps are?
Well, thank you, my friend. Really appreciate it.
Yeah.
We're co-joined, the two of us. So it's just
amen to that.
New adventures. Speaking of which, if we're ready to talk about our card pick a little bit, maybe.
Yes,
what do you think?
Please. Love
All
that
right.
deck. Love it. Love it.
Well, I'll for those that are viewing live here on audio, I mean on video, we're doing the Pocket Wild Unknown Tarot today. So it's the smaller version of the card.
So cute.
Isn't it? It's, I mean, what,
so
maybe
adorable.
like 5 inches tall, maybe 6. I don't know. It's 5.
If even.
Yeah. And so
I feel like they're not even as long as our fingers. I don't know. I'd have to.
Well, you got a good
I just
point
started
there.
using
Look.
it. So yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Finger.
Yeah, this is such a fun deck. I have the regular size deck too, but I'm a big supporter of Kim Krans. In fact, I saw she has a circular card deck that's been out for a while, but it just came on my radar. So I think I might invest in some to have in one of my open shops on Saturday, but it's called Archetypes. I was like forest, you know, like it would be really interesting to see her take on archetypes.
Yes.
To me, archetypes is a very juicy part of I guess maybe how it's part of the prism of things I look through in life, you know.
Yeah, and I think it forms the basis for any book you read, like any fiction characters. Like there's just, it's so primitive and primal. And you know, I remember listening to the Carolyn Meese way back in the day, and I just honestly, I was just not ready, because I listened to it, I'm like, I kind of understand this, but I don't get it.
Yeah.
And I feel like if I went back now, I probably would be able to grok it on a much deeper level. So I love that. And I also love that you talked about Chris Wilder's doing the Frankenstein Feminine's retelling, right?
Yeah.
I can't wait for that. We love her too. We love her deck. So
well, that's I suppose like our steady. We love that one. Yeah. Have to put that in the show. We've had it in the show notes before, but okay. So interestingly, there's going to be a little yang here for us. This is the Emperor. The Emperor is who we're choosing. So it's I am responding to the fact that it is, you know, one of the major arcana cards, which is really adds an extra boost of power. I mean, the image here feels so like solid. It just has such a feeling of giving that stability and strength and Like,
Yeah, so it's a tree, right? It's a big, huge, I
yeah,
don't know what
thank
kind
you.
of tree that is. No, no
Like an
problem.
evergreen, I would say, right? Does it look
It
like an
feels very
evergreen?
solstice-y too to me. It looks like a Christmas tree almost. So
Yeah, thank you for describing it.
you're
But it
welcome.
also looks like a eclipsed moon or sun to me, doesn't it?
Mhm.
Like it looks like black over the sun, maybe.
Yes, which we just
Sun.
gone through lunar solar eclipse cycle.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, I'll read what the card says.
Sure.
Protection, stability, the father. So that's another part of what I meant about the yang. The emperor is the father. He's the tarot's perfect counterpart to the empress. He represents the side of you that's protective, decisive, and truly stable. He brings clarity of mind. Well, I think that that's a lot about what we're talking about today. Um, and this in turn leads to actions or decisions. Okay, well, we're been talking about a lot of that too. Sometimes this card is literal and points to a paternal relationship in your life. At other times, it suggests reconnecting with the part of you that stands strong and tall and knows just what to do. With the help of the sun, the emperor can see for miles and miles. And I'm kind of thinking if this is the card for the month for us, I love the feeling like that. If um, somehow we'll post the picture of this, like the stillness and just like the grounded stability. I'm not ruffled, like the calmness, all of that feels so good for, solstice season for the winter. What
It's
do you think?
also us talking about like really listening to ourselves and honoring ourselves and putting our needs first. And I feel like that's a very young
Mhm.
thing to do, right? Is to be
Yeah.
assertive and be confident and come from our solar chakra, right? Of like this is what I'm gonna do. And it still can be very feminine, but I feel like that's the message of like, I'm taking care of myself right now. I'm protecting myself and I'm gonna listen to what's best for me.
Yeah. It's every single time. Cards don't lie, right? I love that
They really
interpretation.
don't.
So
They
that
really
was
don't.
just
So
ties in perfectly with everything that we talked about, but also to have that be a continuation throughout the month, until the
yeah.
next podcast. So
Thank you.
rocked it. We did
Thank you, Spirit. Thank you. Thank you.
very much so. Yeah. So, do we want to finish with our question that we like to
Sure.
ask?
Sure.
Like, what are you going to do to continue or deepen, if anything, your self-care for this month with the guardianship now of the emperor, right? With him
Right. Very stable
in
and
our
solid.
corner.
Yes. In our corner for sure. So yeah, like I said, I'm kicking it off with yoga nidra on the solstice itself. And I feel like that's just such a beautiful way to step into the practice and honor, you know, the quiet and the inwardness and really be okay with like, I don't have to be external, right? And as an introvert, it's very natural for me to go inward, but then I feel like, yes, am I neglecting other people's needs because I'm taking care of myself? Well, thank you, Emperor. You and me, buddy, we're gonna hang out and
Like that.
explore. But I am looking forward to starting up the new year. I feel like part of the idea of New Year's resolutions ties in nicely to solstice because I do feel like it's out with the old, in with the new, and the sunlight starts coming back. And so the days start coming longer, and then we gently move into spring eventually. And so I always feel like it's such a great time to really invoke new habits that are going to be for my highest good. So
Mm,
just continuing to look at my relationship with alcohol. I have some great books in my library that I'm going to dive deeper into and really, get into how I can support myself in a much healthier way.
mm,
And then my oils, I'm really excited. I feel like that'll be super supportive as well. And I do think, it's almost like meditation, like we imbue these things with energy, whether it's our altar pieces or our breath work, or for me, it's going to be the oils. We create this energy and we anchor that energy. And so then when we need to use it, then we can just pull it out and have a quick sniff or have a deep breath,
mhm.
and we're
Yep.
we're there, like right,
Right.
quick, bam, right. So, and I know there's something about the olfactory nerve you know, we smell stuff that reminds us we can bring ourselves right back to our childhood or to, you know, that really cute guy in college or whatever. Like I feel like smell is such a powerful, I don't know what the word is, tool or resource.
Sense. Yeah.
Well, it is a sense, but also it can be used as a way to
Oh, I see what you're saying.
to
Yes.
create energy and to create mood, right? So I feel like that I feel like there's going to be a tie-in with how I use smell around how I'm taking care of myself and listening to my toddler. So I feel like there's going to be, and I didn't even know that till we just started talking about it. So again, thank you, Spirit, for that little peekaboo into what 2022 is going to be all about. So
this is good. Peekaboo into 2022. You're good, girl.
It even rhymes, right?
I love a good rhyme. Who knows? That could come out in conversation somewhere. I like that.
Yes.
That is good.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, it sounds like you have
How about
a lot of nourishment coming your way.
Yes,
I like it. So, you know, I don't have like a bunch of like a list per se, but there are things that, well, one thing for sure that I am doing, which is, what made me cry was that I wanted to go on retreat regularly to have sacred space and write and be. And I've never given myself that. And I've already booked my first retreat for February, and it was going to be January, but there's a place called Saint Scholastica, which is a monastery, and it's just in Petersam. It's not that far away, and I stumbled upon it when I lived out in that area many years ago, and so it's wonderful to me because there's Gregorian chanting throughout the day. And so I can go to the services with the monks and the nuns. And I won't be able to do this time, but often a retreatant can eat with the nuns, and it's in silence, except that they do readings. And I've had experienced some of the most beautiful readings from sitting there. And then the rest of the time I'm on my own, you know, and so I have the spaciousness of doing as little or as much as I want, you know, walking or just resting or reading or writing, or just like, it's totally sacred space. And there's nothing that comes into my space that I don't want in my space, you know. So I have that booked for February, and my plan is at least every other month to go away. It's only for an overnight, but that's all I need. There's something about, like, if it gets to be 2 or 3 days, then it turns into something else that's not what I'm looking for. And so my intention is I really want to find an Airbnb or a place that has a wood stove so that I can have some fire this winter. So I've been poking around trying to find that, but I haven't come up with the right thing yet. But that's one of my biggest things I'm doing for myself, is to really honor the larger pulls, you know, that I have inside, that I think going through this really I had to reckon with, you know. And then, of course, like I said, this deepening of direction with, you know, these channeled forms of art that want to be in the world, you know, and the working deeply with immersing and creating this enchanted space to live in and to incarnate, you know. And I just got done writing the bio for my new website, so I really kind of go into what that means. What does it mean to live an enchanted life? Well, an enchanted life is really our natural state, along with the miraculous, you know. It's our true nature. And so I go into that because I do feel like we get talked out of it, you know. We don't understand how natural it is to live in that way, and you know how just it's our birthright, really. And kind of like we were talking earlier about getting out of sync, we're totally out of sync with our natural self. or we're always grasping, for this one little bit of it rather than, this inward place coming from that. And that tree really is a great image for me, to feel rooted in that, to create from it, to speak from it. The choices come from that, which is to me another word for um, um, embodying the divine. That is really what it feels like to me. So it's like, if it's not that, and pared down, down, to the essentials. So that's my self-care. And I think that being outside at night, I started doing walking meditations, because there's something about the winter nights that I just love. Of course, there's no snow on the ground. Will I be doing that when we have a foot of snow? Probably, as long as as long as there's enough plowed space that I can do it.
Just walk back and forth in that little.
That's it. That's it. That's all I need. So
yeah,
I think
someone had posted the other night. I was up at the usual like 3:30 a.m. that I get every once in a while, and they posted on Facebook that the Geminids, I think, were the meteor shower that was going on.
Yeah.
So I ran outside and I bundled up, ran outside. It was like chilly. And even though I couldn't, we have a lot of light pollution around here, I couldn't see any of the meteors, but I was just like, yep, there are the stars like every night. And I just don't even think about it. I take it for granted. So, and I love Orion. That's my favorite constellation. So I call him my boyfriend. I'm like, oh, my boyfriend's up in the sky. So it was just really sweet. I love that you're getting outside at night. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's fitting too with the season, to embrace that dark and be in it. Yeah. So those
now
are.
we can ask ourselves, like, what would Emperor do is going to be my new question.
Yes. Yes. And that is pure archetypal work right there, girl. That's it.
Amen. Amen.
Yeah.
Although another practice I like to do is if I have a context I'm working from, I really do try to say, will this get me closer to this outcome or further away? So it really, for me, it helps me to be able to make decisions about what I'm choosing to do or choosing not to do, right?
Yes.
If I'm not sure, if it's not clear to me. So, is this bringing me closer to that, or is it bringing me further away? So.
Great. That is a great phrase. Really great phrase. Yeah. Yes. So it sounds like we're both going to have a very juicy winter. Yeah.
Well, you'll have to be my special guest in like 6 months, and we'll check in and see how it went.
For sure. Yeah. We can pick up where we left off, do a little review.
Amen. Amen to that, sister.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So anything else before I launch us out into the winter world?
Our winter wonderland. No, I don't think so.
Good. Good. Okay. All right, everyone. So just settling in once again to the body. Appreciating the intellect and the mind for what it can do for us, but also remembering to come back to the body, back to the breath. As Deb said, not taking for granted the in and the out of the breath that happens without us even thinking about it. Remembering that breath is always there for us if we're feeling overwhelmed or anxious or ungrounded. We can simply come back to paying attention to the cool air coming in through the nostrils as it warms its way down through the esophagus into the lungs. And using our imagination, bringing it even down into the belly and the hips, where we encounter our root chakra, our connection to Mother Earth. And once we fill with breath and have gotten what we need from it, letting it back out into the world, reversing its way back up, and out, warmed now by our own bodies. Releasing what's no longer serving us in each breath. And then welcoming in the new, bringing us one step closer to our true purpose and fulfillment. And so really embracing this beautiful time of year, the dark time, looking outside, seeing all the animals hibernating, seeing the earth become quiet and still, perhaps blanketed in snow, feeling the stillness even in the air itself. And so may you find what you're looking for during this solstice time. Planting seeds in the dark of winter so they can blossom again in the spring and summer. So grateful to Mother Nature for her cycles, for the moon to guide us each month. So grateful to our healing spirits and guides, our masters and teachers, angels of light, all who are here for our protection, for our growth and healing, and our upliftment. So grateful to you. And now we release the elements that have stood in guardianship of our circle. Starting with beautiful cold winter air, allowing us to hear what we need to hear in your stillness and silence. Moving now to fire, so grateful for the light you bring us throughout the dark winter, for the warmth and the hope for the spring. Even though water may be frozen, oftentimes it's still moving deep, deep, deep underneath. So again, going deep and honoring the intuition and the wisdom and the clearing that water can bring. And then moving back to earth, slumbering, still, quiet, resting, restoring. Giving us the quiet, calm time we need to really be quiet and listen and hear what we need to hear. And giving us the grounding and support so that we can plant those seeds. And always gratitude to Mother Earth. And gratitude to yourselves today for coming to the circle every month, for taking time for just yourself. What would Emperor do? Listening to that protective, confident side of yourself, honoring that part of yourself. And so I release all of us out back into the world so we can do our thing and work our magic and be our beautiful, true, authentic selves. And so it is.
So want to be.
I love you, my friends.
Love you too, my sister.
Yeah. Thanks for an awesome season.
We did. We kicked it. It was a pure joy. And I thank you. And so wishing you many happy tomorrows and days after that and season 2, episode 1, and on and on.
Mhm.
Wonderful to feel like an ancestor to the show now.
It's
Be the first
grandmother Deborah
ancestor.
Faye.
Yeah.
Very nice. I like it.
I'll
And I know
learn the
you'll
corner.
be with us in spirit, literally. So
Now it'll be funny to watch it and say instead of right now I'll tune in.
like, what
Spotify,
card
here I
is she gonna
come.
pull?
I
Yep.
love it. Well, thank you
Yes.
to everyone for being with
Yes.
us. And
Thank you.
yeah, happy Yule,
Yes,
solstice,
blessed you all.
Christmas,
Yes.
New Year.
Whatever.
Mhm.
Amen. Mhm.
I want to be. All right, sister. Until
All right,
next
darling.
time.
Okay, peekaboo into 2022.
There you go. We're on it.
Okay.
Be well, friend.
You too.